Welcome to United Jews channel.
Well,
Okay,
and if
because
we
I know here
continue
in
to
Texas,
mess with Russia and not negotiate, I mean, the thing is, to me, like, look, I mean, Crimea, they wanted to vote after their government was illegally overthrown in 2014. I mean, you can't argue with that. The president was shot at. I mean, the people in eastern Ukraine, the people in Crimea, both of these places, they wanted to cede from Ukraine. And so the question to me is, are we willing to give up our global stability? And yes, it can get worse
no,
for
I
not
didn't. But
allowing
see,
these
but
two regions
what you
a
don't
vote.
realize, what you're not realizing, and maybe you've never heard that all those people that were shooting at the president, all those things that were happening, were actually Russian plants.
Exactly.
They weren't Ukrainian citizens. I spent a lot of time in Crimea. I mean, Feodosia is one of my favorites. It's Simferopol, Sevastopol. Shoot, where the summit was held. Those are the favorite. But Crimea is one of the favorite places that I used to go visit all the time. And I had a girlfriend there. I mean, a very, very beautiful woman that I'd wanted to marry. We ended up splitting up, but still we're very close friends. But these are the places that I loved. Okay, Crimea never wanted to join Russia. That was Russian propaganda, and that was Russian.
They
Russian
voted
plans
for their independence in 1992, and the Ukrainian government went over their
same
head.
way
That's
that
a fact.
The same way that China voted for Xi in this last election.
No, I mean,
the same
really,
way that
in 1992,
the Russian people voted for Putin in this last election.
For their independence.
Yes, they did in 1992. I've looked at all the documents.
I'm not sure which documents you're referring to, but Crimea never voted for their independence.
Yes, they did.
Okay,
yes, they did.
Let me tell you something.
I'll send it to you.
Please, I would appreciate it. I was born in Ukraine. I was raised in Russia. I graduated college in Crimea. I have a lot of friends in Crimea, including my ex-husband. They never voted, even when the Putin took it over. It wasn't actually their will. Okay, they had a lot of military in Sevastopol and other cities to take over the Crimea. Okay.
Well, why didn't they just give them a legal vote internationally overseen, like they were asking, if they were so certain that?
Who was asking?
Russia asked for a legal vote under the UN Charter.
Under Russian supervision and under Russian quote unquote protection.
Exactly.
When a guy is holding a rifle, a Russian soldier is holding a rifle and in front of the voting thing there, and he's looking at you vote and watching you vote, and you check the wrong box, and he firms his grip on the gun and he points it at you, and if you don't change your vote, there's consequences to that.
They will not let you out of that poll if you don't put the right thing.
It's kind of like California. If you want to leave California, they don't want to let you leave California. You have to pay, you have to pay an extra tax to move out of California. That's not the place that, that's not because everybody wants to move to California. It's because everybody's trying to leave.
When you look at the Wikipedia, when you look at the news articles from the time, I mean, if you were there, I mean, it's like in Mexico, or on South America, there's people with guns that are in the military. That doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to shoot you. They're just carrying their guns. I mean, I don't really know. What I've seen NPR articles, lots of different articles that said that, Crimea in 2014 was legitimately voted to be in Russia. Whether or not it was accepted by the international community, they did vote for that.
Kim Jong-il was legitimately elected president in North Korea.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. It's not true at all. I like I say, it's a very, this is the power, and Krista, nothing against you, Krista. This is a very important issue that we talked about a little earlier. This is the power of propaganda. When you are being told what to think and what you're being told what happened, and I'll put it in quotes, but it's not really what happened. You're hearing what somebody told you, is happened. This is the danger of the propaganda that's being perpetuated even now in Russia.
Well, I mean, these are all mainstream Western articles that I was looking at. They weren't from Russia.
But this is not true. You need to understand that back in the days, even 1991, 1992, when you're talking about, Crimea had absolutely nothing. They could even, the people can talk about independence all they want. But in order to be independent, you need to sustain yourself. You need to be able to support yourself. The only thing Crimea had is the Black Sea and the few medical sanatorium for kids and disabled people. That's it. They had absolutely no resources. So there is no normal about it that they can be independent. So that's why I'm very surprised that you found some documentation that was talking about it.
Yeah, they voted to be independent, and then the Ukrainian government gave them a ultimatum that they had to change what they had voted for.
No, well, sorry, that was the time that I went to school. It wasn't true. It's not true. I can tell you for sure.
Dmitry, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have plenty to add, so I have to pick one thing that I want to add, which is probably more important than other. So let me pick this. I think there is a misconception among Americans who are in favor of ending the conflict right now, the misconception about consequences in case if US stops supporting Ukraine. So the misconception is that they believe that Ukraine will accept it. The fact is that it's not Zelensky's initiative. Zelensky is nobody. I mean, he is he's representative of Ukrainian will, and there are plenty of internal polls showing that overwhelming majority of Ukrainians, more than 80%, in some cases more than 90%, are fed up with this war so much, so they support fighting to the end. They support fighting until the occupants are removed from the country. So what will happen really is that US will just exclude itself from the winning party. It will be like Europe supplying weapons. Europe will keep supplying. And Europe will disjoint from US. US will lose in this. And then also it will be much harder to fight, like Ukrainians will die in bigger quantities, Russians will capture some territory, and the war will be like a few years longer and much more bloody, and the US will be to blame. So this is what will happen if US stops supporting Ukraine, not what people picture in their mind, like Ukrainians will happily accept like giving half of their country to Russians.
Thank you, Dmitry, for putting this out so smoothly. Okay, did we finish talking about all these legal summits? Can we move on to the interests of people? What are the real interests of citizens of Russia and Ukraine?
Can I just, Tanya, can I just add one little thing?
Sure.
I just want to clear, I believe Krista mentioned that after the China, I believe after Xi went to Russia, she had a concern that there is a coalition. But just so you know, I've listened to the Chinese specialists, like she's a historian in China and she's from Taiwan. And she talked about the fact that one thing that what we hear in translation, another thing how actually Chinese people culture impacted. So her point was based on what she've heard and what Xi said is actually that they will not correlate with the to weaponize the Russia, to support Russia in the war. However, at the same time, she mentioned that Putin agreed in the meeting to have a contract with China where he will buy, they're trying to get rid of the dollar. They're trying to get rid of the dollar. That's what they're trying to do. So that means they're trying to weaken our economy. So their contract will be in their own currency, not in dollar currency as it used to be. So therefore, what Fred said is actually has a place right now. So I don't think it can get any worse for us.
Good point.